Thanks, Amy. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all again. I'm Elizabeth Bramson. I'm the CEO and publisher of MIT Tech Review. It is wonderful to have you all here. I hope you've been inspired by the ideas, the discussions that have taken place here the last few days. So I'm going to build in the next session on what we just started with Bobby. We're going to talk about the idea of embedding AI invisibly into the business. So waiting in the wings here are two people. One is Jim Rowan, the head of AI at Deloitte, and Gab Ricci, the chief data and technology officer at Takeda. So Takeda is Japan's largest pharmaceutical company, but it's also one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies. And they are a client of Deloitte's. So the two of them are going to tell us a little bit about the work they've been doing together. Jim and Gab, welcome to EmTech. Have a seat, please.
Thank you. Everyone.
So audience, you know how to do it with the questions in the room. Raise your hand to make sure we can see you and let us know what you're thinking about. If you're online, put it into the online question box and it will be fed to me here in this Slack chat up here. So I'm going to set some context. As we heard from Bobby, AI technologies are reshaping work. We've also not just heard that from Bobby, we've heard that from lots of people. It's not all workflows, and not all roles are going to be transformed in the same way. So what I'm hoping we can do as we close out this conversation, sort of where we end up, is to give this group, this audience, some guidance on how to prioritize the efforts and the investments that they're going to need to make in order to drive the most value at this moment. So Jim, please, you are the head of AI at Deloitte.
Sure.
I think that sounds like a pretty big role. Can you help us understand a little bit about what that means? A little bit of a quick summary of what that role is.
Yeah, it's a really fun job, too. I mean, what a great time to be responsible for AI at Deloitte. So I have three real responsibilities. The first is with our clients. So what do our clients need? What's the go-to-market activities with them? And with our alliances and tech relationships, because this is such a complex space. We spend a lot of time trying to understand what the nuances are across all the different ecosystem and what they're offering from an AI perspective. So that's job number one. Job number two is that, in the US, we're roughly a $30 billion organization and have roughly 160,000 employees. Being knowledge workers, that's something that's getting a little bit disrupted by the use of AI. So I'm trying to transform our internal firm around the uses of AI. And the third, which I love being here at the Media Lab for, is around innovation. So what are the things that we can get ahead of and try to disrupt ourselves to be ready for the next 170 years of our firm? So that's a little bit of what I'm up to.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the same question for you, Gab, but with an extra layer that the pharmaceutical industry is its own sort of special beast. Can you give us a little bit of again, quick rundown of some of the characteristics of the industry and how tech and AI are really changing and transforming it?
Sure. So I lead a function in Takeda called Data, Digital, and Technology. We set a bold ambition for the company to bring better medicines faster to our patients worldwide. In order to do that, we strongly believe that we need to advance science and digital innovation at the same pace. So basically, we build a scientific pipeline, but also a digital pipeline. So my role in Takeda is to manage and building these digital pipeline and running the digital transformation across the company. So about our industry, we are operating in a very volatile environment with geopolitical and macroeconomic tensions, supply chain risks, cyber threats, mounting pressures from all governments to keep the cost of healthcare under control. But on the other side, we are also living amazing times where science and technology are accelerating faster than ever and is giving us amazing opportunities to bring innovations to our patients. So to survive, but hopefully also to thrive in this new, ever-changing world, we must innovate faster, and we need to create greater resiliency and agility. And digital is key. There's a reason why we are witnessing across the industry rapid and widespread adoption of emerging technology. And of course, AI and GenAI are the catalysts, right? And the most recent accelerators. Same for Takeda. We embark in a major digital transformation journey in the last 2 years to really reimagine how we operate and how we deliver value to our customers. And it's not just a technology revolution. It's really about creating a future-ready organization. And so this digital fluency, or how we call that, digital dexterity, is crucial to propel the organization to the next phase of business growth.
I mean, I have to say, there's a lot of stories we talk about on this stage and back in the office about the impact of AI, but something about pharma always just seems incredibly exciting. It's we're so lucky to be alive at this moment because of what's possible as a result of these technologies coming together. How does that square up with what you see, Jim? Because you're not just looking at pharma, you're looking across multiple industries. How does what Gab has shared with us look different or the same, depending on where one's looking in the economy?
Well, and I would say, kudos to Takeda and Gab and the leadership that team's provided, because it takes really strong leadership to say, this is a moment of change. We're going to embark on this change, and we're not sure necessarily where all this technology and advancements are going to take us, but we're going to go on that journey and start it. And so we've really seen over the past 2 years a number of different industries and sectors really start to lead this charge. Interestingly enough, a lot of the places where there was heavy regulation has forced us to collect our data, tag our data, put it into lineage and cataloging and things like that made actually applying AI to it a little bit easier. So we also see in banking, capital markets, KYC, know your customer processes, fraud and anti-money laundering, a lot of really good use cases across industries and there. And then we're also seeing this in the supply chain, and not just because tariffs is a conversation that's out there, but because supply chain had a lot of information spread out across disparate systems, and they were able to connect those together, and using AI and using deterministic AI. So it doesn't have to be, as we were just hearing, a large language model kind of problem. Using other forms of AI to help really drive transformation in those core functions. Really great opportunities out there we're seeing across the industry. So I think almost everyone is starting with it, and the risk is just not getting going.
Yeah. Gab, you just used the term digital dexterity.
Yep.
And I think that implies agility. Tell us about a little bit more. Can you play that out for us? What's in your mind at Takeda that makes you use that phrase?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's really about creating a future-ready organization. So building now the capabilities and skills that we need for the next phase of business growth in the next 3-5 years, but we need to start now. So for us, digital dexterity is about the ability, but also the ambition to embrace, for all our employees, new and emerging technology to boost productivity at personal and team perspective, to drive agility and innovation, but also to create more flexibility and well-being. So it's not just about learning a new technology. It's about the curiosity. It's about the mindset that I want to create in organization to really, boost innovation. And so our digital dexterity program has basically four modules: one for personal productivity, another for collaboration, data literacy, and what we call everyday AI, because we recognize that we need to embrace AI in the daily flow. And actually, more than 50% of the entire workforce, so 35,000 people across Takeda, went through these digital learnings in the last 9 months. It's pretty impressive.
So how did you do that? Is that online training?
It's a mix. So we are using our learning platforms. We created a community that is called Takeda.ai that provides basically learnings, but also policies. It provides also visibility on all pilots that we have across the organization, and also the tools, right? And of course, also in class.
And did you change it? I don't mean to drill down so far, but I think it's really interesting. You started at the top?
Absolutely.
Make your way down,
and go down from the top executive to the shop floor people in the labs or in our manufacturing facilities, and I can access actually Gen AI Bootcamp, for example. We just launched 5 of them with more than 200 colleagues that now are Gen AI ready, let's say.
Wow.
So they're building their own agents across the organization. It's pretty impressive because there's a huge adoption and curiosity, right?
And you have to create space for that, for them to mess around with it and
exactly.
experiment.
So we have not just a digital workspace, but also a physical space.
Yeah.
Where we call that XD Labs, Experience Design Labs, where we have our own designers that help our colleagues to come together and using design thinking, human-centered design methodologies to solve big problems together. And of course, apply AI at the center. So there's a way for us to boost adoption of these tools.
Yeah. So, Jim, going back to you,
Yeah, sure.
what was the collaboration like with between Deloitte and Takeda in terms of getting this digital dexterity built up?
Yeah, I mean, we collaborated on a lot of different areas, and I think there's specific areas in the R&D function, across HR function, and other capabilities that we've done with the team. And I think, Gab, what I want to pick up on what you were saying too, that this getting people to hands-on on the tools, I think is just so important. And one of the things that in my internal role for the Deloitte team, which I think was really helpful, is we took our management team through an agent building exercise, and we made them build agents against each other in 45 minutes to see who could build agents and how to use them, because this technology gets a little bit lost in the reality, back to this hype versus reality conversation. And so until you start to get hands-on and use these things, that was our big push for Agentics for our leadership. And then we also ran an AI agent week where we had almost 40,000 learning hours across our organization just getting familiar with this topic. And then that starts to spur all this innovation and growth, which I think feeds into your labs and some of the other cool things you guys are doing. So I love the sort of where you're going with that, and also how to keep everything like really hands-on and focused across the organization.
So we have a question that's come in online, and again, if you have questions in the room, they're starting already online, so you don't want to miss out against the online attendees. From Siddharth, given the speed of AI's evolution and the breadth of use cases, how will change management and upskilling need to evolve? I think maybe that's a good one for you, Jim.
How it's going to change and evolve? I think one of the key things is sort of, when you think about the workforce, like, us as individuals and humans have to activate our curiosity. We have to get involved in this, and we have to give our employees the opportunities to express their curiosity. And so the sandbox example that we were just seeing from Robert, from Bob, and from Akamai, about creating these environments where you can try these things out, I think is so critical, because if you don't create that environment, it becomes oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't have access to these things, and that just crushes innovation. Like, who wants to come to a place where it says like all the no's that you can't do? So I think our job is to kind of elevate that and allow people to play in a safe way.
It's also intimidating, I think, and you kind of just need to throw yourself at it, right?
Yes.
And play. And to this end, I want to mention that later today, I think you all know on the agenda, we are running something similar, a lab, and if you attend that, you'll be able to build an agent within an hour. So
it's like a Build-A-Bear workshop.
Yeah,
that's what we joked about. Yeah, can you bring it home with you? I'm not sure.
That's awesome. Okay, we have a question here.
Yes, hi, John Farbo, Canadian National Defense. Anthropic's CEO has said that digital employees, fully agentic AI, will be available within the next year.
Yeah.
Given how hard you guys have just talked about the change management process of even getting people to understand the technology, is it too late? Should we just be waiting for the AI employees to start rolling those out rather than trying to convince people to use agentic AI and create it themselves?
Yeah. Would you like to start?
I can start. So right now in Takeda, the biggest platform is not our ERP, is not our CRM, is actually a chatbot. And it's used by 40,000 people out of 50,000 every single day. And we already have 17 agents built in. And now the speed on how we are able to build those agents is exponentially growing. I think that those agents are a little bit like interns. When you have an intern, you assign easy task, you supervise the outcome of this intern, and then over time, actually, you get confidence, right? You trust the output of this intern. And so they grow, actually, in the organization. They get promoted. You assign more tasks. Ultimately, in a few years, there will probably be a VP. I don't know. So I think we need to manage, agents in the same way. We need to have the right framework, specifically in areas like us, that is very compliance and highly regulated, and get the confidence, right, and the trust that you can basically let them go, right? So it's creating the confidence in the organization to use those agents over time. But reality is right now, and it's happening in Takeda every single day.
Yeah, I think it's now, and there are two challenges really. One, I find that the agents you build today, you're gonna have to retire maybe in 6 months. So you have to, much like the workforce of a hired to retire workforce, the things I'm working with our team on that we're solutioning on, we know we might not last more than 6 or 7 months because the technology might advance. So why spend 6 months building? Let's build in 2 or 3 weeks. Let's get that out to the team and have them start to understand how to use it and then get the feedback and then iterate again. And that's a huge mindset shift. But once you start sort of rolling those things out, we were talking about this, getting an agent built in a few days and getting it deployed really changes like your quality assurance muscles, your regulatory muscles that check these things. People start to think about acting in a really different way, and that's like the innovation change that AI can bring within the group.
And that's a very good point, because it's not just the roles that will be anyway impacted by the agents itself, it's a ripple effect across the entire organization around the process that will be automated by those agents. So it's really pervasive now across the org.
And I think the process piece is so tricky too, because you have to say to yourself, how do I reimagine a process about a technology I don't quite totally understand, and will probably be different in like 6 or 7 months? Like that's an interesting business problem. And one of the things we've actually started to do too is say to AI, well, let's have the AI models actually reimagine our processes and come back with the feedback, and then start building some of the agents based off of the information they have. And now you get a whole new different way of working.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of questions in online, and I'm
sorry.
It's no,
quicker
it's okay.
answers. I guess.
I'm just. There's a lot of interest here. So, I think one that I'll pick up on, because it's just you're leaving us in a good spot for this, is how are you balancing rapid experimentation with AI against the need for governance, compliance, and risk management, particularly in a highly regulated industry?
We built actually a dedicated team, is called Digital Ethics and Compliance, and this team...
Digital Ethics?
Ethics and Compliance. So this team is responsible to embed across the entire life cycle of our AI and digital tools development, the core principles, right? To really stay in compliance with the regulations across the globe. We operate in 80 countries, so you can imagine that it's very complicated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also built our own ethical AI framework. And this is the basic, actually, to start prototyping and then moving those pilots across the value chain and get confidence that before we move them in production, they are robust enough. So we build the entire framework around and a dedicated team with the right skills to help with the data privacy, with the local regulatory environment, and basically helping us to scale across 80 countries.
Yeah. Okay, what does success look like in your AI initiatives? Maybe we'll go to you, Jim, and sort of speak broadly or narrowly, as you wish. How are you measuring success in AI beyond typical ROI metrics? But it may even be worth just touching on what those typical metrics are.
Yeah, that's helpful too. I mean, we get this question from clients a lot about how do we measure success from this? And the business case that I run for the firm is about a $2 billion business case, and it impacts our entire business. And so we look at it across a couple different measures for us, but some of it is just efficiency. So we measure the amount of time it takes to produce an output. That's a very straightforward metric. We look at the ROI for these investments that are quantitative. And then we step back and then we say, we've got to challenge ourselves in our thinking. So what are the real qualitative benefits? And this is where it gets a little bit squishy, because it's hard to put those numbers in front of people. And so we've been spending a lot of time educating why innovation is important and the throughput that we can put. So like another example is how many agents can we build per week? So we're thinking about like how many internal agents can we develop in a week? That's a different throughput mechanism than saying how much efficiency are those agents driving, which changes a different conversation in the firm to say, okay, now let's go build a bunch of these things quickly and learn, which then drives the innovation. So we're trying to get a little bit more creative about how we think about the measurement of the things that we're doing, and then sharing that with others and getting feedback. But those don't work if you haven't, in my experience, haven't educated our board, management teams, and we see this with our clients too. If they're not buying in on those journeys and understanding the technology, it's very hard for them to get the qualitative we're seeing.
I think there's a question in the back of the room. There, yes.
Yes, Mario Vela, US Cellular. Got a question about the dexterity program. I'm very interested on that one. Do you have any advice? What things work and what things did not work, I guess, during the implementation of such program for, I guess, companies like me or... You're
talking about the training program?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are things that work and didn't work?
What's working pretty well is that we manage those programs are persona-based. So we really need to envision, who are the personas that will use this technology. We have people behind the desk, people in the labs, scientists, people in the shop floor, so very different. And so personalized experience for all of them, I think, is crucial. And also create a tier approach, like, yellow belt, blue belt, black belt, and actually give visibility to all of them.
Wow.
And another, I think, important thing is to promote the things that they're doing, to not reinvent the wheel, to scale innovation across the organization, and actually, be more efficient with all these pilots that will pop up like a mushroom, to be honest. So we need to also to take control of this. So those are just some advices.
Yeah.
One piece of advice that we found was a challenge was that the proximity of the training materials to the tool that you need to train people on, and just continuing to get those as close as possible, because whenever you have to leave a system to get some information you need, we find that as being one of the struggles. And so that's something we constantly are trying to push closer and closer together, so it's as real time and as tool or process or task specific.
So, all right, one of the things I wanted to talk about in this was also how to prioritize investments. How do you put together an AI investment plan and set the right priorities without asking you to get into things you can't get into, Gab? Can you talk to us about how you prioritized your investments and where you think you all can get the greatest value out of AI now?
Yeah, and AI, Gen AI, or any other investment on digital, we're managing them in the same way. So I talk about the digital pipeline. Actually, to prioritize this pipeline, we created a formal governance body, co-chaired by myself and the CEO, with all Takeda executive team members joining. And this is where actually we make decisions on prioritization, because resources are limited, and we want to focus on where we can create more value. And for us, the value framework that we created has 3 dimensions. It's definitely cost efficiency, because it's important, so tangible ROI, but it's also being better and faster. So our motto is better, faster, and more efficient. Because you can imagine, when you accelerate your pipeline, R&D pipeline, the scientific pipeline, is not just about cost. It's about bringing faster, better medicines, as I said, to our patients. So cost is an element, but speed and quality counts a lot. So basically, the way in which we prioritized our investment is using these 3 dimensions. And when we move basically from an idea to MVP, and MVP to scale, we have specific metrics that we measure for every single investment that we make. So before actually scaling all those ideas to the different stages, we actually check and control the value, right, around these 3 dimensions that I mentioned. And we're using the same exactly process for our scientific pipeline and our let's say, digital pipeline, because both are equally important and should be managed at the core of our organization.
And Jim, this question of sort of value and whether that's about cost saving or, in the case of new product discovery, et cetera, you could call that growth or opportunity or whatever. How do you all think about that at Deloitte? How do you work with clients like Takeda? How's it different?
Well, I think, so what we're doing is we're really looking at the value creation from use case. So we work with clients to figure out both what's their AI strategy, what are you trying to do from an AI perspective? Is it internal efficiency? Is it infusing into your products? How does it fit to your corporate aspirations as an organization? How do you layer in AI with part of it? So that's like a really key part of getting going on these things, is to have that clarity of definition. And then from there, getting the organizational alignment behind that. And I think one of the biggest things we see for organizations right now is just a fear to move. Like there's an enterprise, like an organizational inertia of like, I'll take care of this after this program gets done. You can't wait till that program gets done. You need to start embracing these things because they're happening very fast. Doesn't mean you stop programs. It means you look at them and say, where can I infuse AI in the program that I have today? There's going to be an opportunity for it. And yes, AI is not going to be the be-all, end-all solver of those, but you're building that organizational muscle, maturity, capability that you can then use for the most important AI use cases on your team. So that's one of the things we try to really push.
And what are some of the things, Gab, that had surprised you the most about either positively or negatively?
The curiosity. I mean, when we launched this platform, we call My iBoot, that means companion. We didn't promote it because we had huge limitations, as most of us, on accessing, the technology and the backend. So we didn't promote it by purpose, and was actually exploded in weeks and months is incredible. And now, from, again, the top managers to, the scientists to the people in the lab are using every single day for desperate tasks. So I was very impressed about the curiosity in the organization to adopt such technologies in a self-trained mode, if you want, right? And this is exactly what we want. We want AI to be transparent in the organization, not to be too visible, to be honest, but to be part of the daily flow.
Yeah, Jim, I want to give you the last word. Where would you leave this audience as they think about the way to make sure that their AI implementations have the greatest impact?
Yeah, so I think there's best place to get the greatest impact is look at the heart of your businesses where you can really try to drive innovation. I'd be thinking about AI there, but don't only start there and don't only start on the big use cases. I think sometimes we have these grand aspirations of these massive changes. Getting something out to all of your employees that creates a unified experience is awesome. And really just trying to drive really quick iterations is the most important thing because it's moving so fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've given everybody here a lot to think about. It's really valuable. Thank you very much for this. We appreciate your being here. And with that, I'm going to send you guys off. I'll
Thank
be
you.
right off
Thank you very much.
soon, right
Thank
behind you.